Somalia, Iraq, and Iran combined don't even have a population equal to just the Muslim population of Indonesia. This seems like a ban on national populations irrespective of religion to me. If it were a ban on a religion, then there are a lot of Muslim nations left off the list. Seems like a lot more liberal hype again, much like many of the protests since the swearing in of our new president. Stephen Wiseman of Bellevue. From Sister Ann Pellegrino of Omaha. I am an immigrant's daughter, and it is troubling to witness the policies that are being enacted in this country around immigration. My father was welcomed into this country and not turned away because of his religion or his nationality. I have read the arguments that the times are different now, these people could be evil, this is about our safety, and so forth. I believe it is imperative that we take a moment to reflect on our own personal history, as there are very few of us who do not have ancestors who were immigrants at one time. Then this issue can be made personal rather than only political. If we can become more compassionate, we can better craft legislation that will address the problems created by a few without punishing and alienating many nationalities. Again, Sister Ann Pellegrino of Omaha. From Chuck, I'm going to say Real, but it might be Real of Omaha. President Trump's order to implement better vetting procedures for refugees from some Muslim-majority countries has nothing to do with stopping refugees from most countries and religious faiths from coming to the United States. However, in order to satisfy the ideologues on the left, I propose that every person on the front line of protesting the president's attempt to keep Americans safe should volunteer to take into their home one unvetted male refugee from either Syria or Libya. Chuck Real of Omaha. From Janice Mohs, M-O-H-S of Omaha. Why is it that Donald Trump didn't include Saudi Arabia in his country's ban from immigration to the United States, especially considering the fact that the majority of the 9/11 hijackers were from that country? Could it be because he has business dealings in Saudi Arabia? Janice Mohs of Omaha. From Caitlin Kukoli of Omaha. I am surprised and angry by the lack of pushback from Nebraska U.S. Senators Deb Fischer and Ben Sasse about Secretary of Education nominee Betsy DeVos, given their previous experience in education. Teachers have always been fighting for people to put more value on public education, and it's never been easy. By doing what DeVos envisions and pumping money into charter schools that have been shown to perform at the same level and may have alternative motives as public schools, we are cheating future generations of a better education that can be funded through public schools. Caitlin Kukoli of Omaha. And the last letter in the Omaha Public Pulse today is from Jerry Golmanovich of Omaha. Although Grace University is faced with an uncertain future, its closing performance of Pirates of Penzance looked as though there was nothing to worry about. This show assembled a group of 52, including the orchestra, that displayed an immense quantity of talent that would have made Gilbert and Sullivan proud. Director Mackenzie Damer included top-notch acting and wonderful choreography to make this show a feast for the senses. It seemed like the entire student body inspired the players to offer their best in a relatively small venue. My wife and I were told that some of the lead performers were on the threshold of graduation, and we hope that all who remain will find an outlet for their talents. As the show closed, one could see the camaraderie among the cast members. If the collective heart of a group could be measured, the university can be proud of what its students learn. Bravo. Again, Jerry Golmanovich of Omaha.
Well, thanks, Deb. Let's listen to what the editorial writers for the Lincoln Journal-Star have to say this week. Well, it's bad enough that President Donald Trump slammed the door on refugees seeking haven from the Islamic State and other violent regimes. And it's bad enough that President Donald Trump imposed severe travel restrictions incompetently, creating chaos in airports and among members of his own national security team. But the worst thing about Trump's executive order is that it actually will hurt American security. Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse was one among a wide range of Republicans who criticized the rollout of the order, according to Fox News. Sass identified the problem succinctly. While not technically a Muslim ban, this order is too broad. If we send a signal to the Middle East that the U.S. sees all Muslims as jihadis, the terrorist recruiters win by telling kids that America is banning Muslims and that this is America versus one religion. Our generational fight against jihadism requires wisdom. The same point was made last summer by Jim Mattis, Trump's new Secretary of Defense. Mattis said last summer, after Trump proposed banning all Muslims from entering the country, that Trump's comment was causing us a great damage right now, and it's sending shockwaves through the international system. Although Mattis has voiced no criticism of Trump's order, the retired Marine Corps general was not consulted in the writing of the order and didn't see it until several hours before Trump signed it. Stephen Bannon, Trump's chief White House strategist, oversaw the writing of the order, which was done by a small White House team, including Stephen Miller, Mr. Trump's policy chief, the New York Times reported. It should dismay anyone concerned about the state of national security that Trump has named Bannon to a permanent spot on the National Security Council, while limiting the role of the Director of National Intelligence and military's Joint Chiefs of Staff to occasional appearances. Although Bannon was in the U.S. Navy for 7 years and briefly served as a special assistant to the Navy's top admiral at the Pentagon in the 1980s, he has had no connection with the military since then. He is chiefly known as founding member and later executive chairman of Breitbart News, a far-right news organization that peddles racist material, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has been monitoring hate groups for decades. President Trump, of course, has no previous military or political experience. Bannon's elevation to the national security post and his personal involvement in the writing of the executive order on immigration basically means that national security is in the hands of rank, bumbling novices. And it shows. Americans should be worried, very worried. And that's the opinion from today's Lincoln Journal-Star. Yeah.
Here's the editorial in this morning's World Herald. The headline reads, "White House needs to learn." The tumult that resulted from the White House's temporary ban on immigrants from 7 Muslim-majority countries ought to provide a teachable moment for the Trump administration. The executive order, among other things, was poorly prepared, needlessly creating a host of complications and burdens. It was written without input by key departments. It put frontline workers in the untenable position of trying to make decisions on important issues the directive failed to address. The order left people stranded overseas, separated family members at airports, and left matters uncertain for university students and tech workers with permanent legal residency status. The order also threw up obstacles for entry by Iraqi translators, who have provided assistance to our troops in the fight against terrorism. The administration will be inviting more trouble for itself and the country if it uses this same subpar approach in tackling other issues, such as Obamacare. Among the lessons the administration needs to learn in the wake of recent days, involve far more people in policy preparation. The executive order, according to NBC, was developed by White House staff without consulting the Departments of Homeland Security, Defense, and State. Those agencies have direct responsibility on aspects of refugee issues, yet they were inexplicably left in the dark about the directive's release until the last minute. Coordination among appropriate federal departments isn't a mere nicety. It's a central tool for addressing complications beforehand and getting all appropriate players in the loop. Federal departments with direct responsibility on this issue have been forced to scramble and play catch-up because of the irresponsible go-it-alone actions by the White House staff. recognize that details matter. Saying that the order carried out a well-known campaign stance by President Donald Trump is insufficient. Substance matters at least as much as form. Converting broad campaign promises into specific action requires meticulous preparation, particularly in cases involving important legal considerations. The White House stumbled badly on this score. The executive order, among other things, failed to provide adequate guidance on how to handle cases involving green card holders, permanent legal residents, dual nationals, a citizen of one restricted country and one non-restricted country, such as Canada or Britain, and asylum seekers. Avoid surprises. Think through real-world consequences. The executive order caught most by surprise, including the federal workers charged with enforcing it. The result was confusion for those workers, plus major disruption for individuals and families, universities with foreign students and faculty, and private sector employers. Tech companies have made clear their exasperation with the problems the order has created for them. Trump won the election and made clear his intention to toughen the vetting process for admitting refugees. It's within the president's authority to take action on this matter, and careful vetting per se is not necessarily a bad idea. It's true, too, that the Obama administration banned visas for refugees from Iraq for 6 months in 2011. Although the Obama administration raised its annual refugee cap to 110,000 for this budget year and accepted 12,587 people from Syria, the number of Syrian refugees admitted by the United States previously was surprisingly tiny. 1,682 in fiscal 2015, 105 in fiscal 2014, and 36 in fiscal year 2013. Such considerations don't erase the fact that with its initial actions on the refugee issue, the Trump administration botched it. Rather than getting defensive, the administration needs to learn the lesson here and use careful planning, communication, and solid execution to increase the chances of getting things right the first time.
Thank you, Deb. Well, it's time for today's living and entertainment sections. And usually I start off with the doctor's advice column, authored by Doctors Elizabeth Coe and Glazier. But here's a different kind of article. Well, it's about a different kind of health. It's the health of your mind. And it's from the Associated Press. Now, even in your 70s and beyond, simple activities, including web surfing, playing bridge, and socializing, can stave off mental decline, new research says. Benefits were greatest in computer users and in those without a gene variation linked with Alzheimer's disease. But even among seniors with that trait, mental decline that sometimes precedes dementia was less common among those who engaged in mind-stimulating activities. The results don't apply to costly computer-based games that purport to keep the brain sharp. Those were not studied. The benefits were found from activities that many seniors have access to. They don't have to spend their life savings on fancy gadgets, said Dr. Jonas Gita, the study's senior author and a neurologist at the Mayo Clinic's Scottsdale, Arizona campus. The study was published Monday in the journal JAMA Neurology. The researchers noted that the statistical link they found with reduced risk does not prove the activities were responsible. Still, said Heather Snyder of the Alzheimer's Association, the results support the idea that being engaged mentally is good for brain health. The study looked at 5 types of activities that are thought to help keep the mind sharp. Computer use, making crafts, playing games, including chess or bridge, going to movies or other types of socializing, and reading books. The idea was to see if these activities could help prevent mild cognitive impairment. That condition involves problems with memory, thinking, and attention that don't interfere much with daily life, but which increased risks for developing Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. Almost 2,000 adults aged 70 to 93 without any memory problems participated. They lived in Minnesota's Olmsted County, where the Mayo Clinic in Rochester is located. They were asked whether they had engaged in any of the 5 activities during the previous year, and if so, how often. They were tested for the condition in mental exams at the beginning and every 15 months for about 4 years. During that time, 456 study participants developed a mild impairment. Analysis found a protective effect from each activity except for reading books. Study participants who engaged in any of the other activities at least once weekly were 20% to 30% less likely to develop the condition over the 4 years than those who never did those activities.
Thanks, Don. From the front page of the living section of the Omaha World Herald, there are 3 women in very swingy, fringy dresses. And the headline says, "Sweet Reunion for Musical Cast." In 1992, the producer of an Omaha show featuring 3 white and 3 black female singers walked the old market practically begging folks to buy tickets. "I was pulling people off the streets," Gordon Cantiello recalled. They had never heard of the show. It was called Beehive, and after a slow start, it surely created a buzz. "It was amazing," said Kathy Tyree, one of the singers. "Gordon couldn't get anyone to come and see it at first, and then all of a sudden lines of people would stretch out the door and around the building. The audiences were cool. It was just magic, not to mention a sensation. The local version of an off-Broadway show about the evolving music and the changing times of the 1960s ran for 10 months and 220 performances at the Howard Street Tavern. I wrote a couple of columns about it back then, so when Tyree mentioned to me last month that Beehive might be mounted again 25 years after its start, I broke out in, no, definitely not hives, but in anticipatory smiles. I called Cantiello, who confirmed that he was getting the cast back together. After rehearsals to rehone harmonies, the show opens Friday at the Performing Arts Repertory Theater, a converted former store at the Crossroads Mall. "Just to imagine that these gals are still in Omaha doing this show again," he said, "is unreal." Singing the songs of Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, and Diana Ross and the Supremes will be Tyree, Tiffany White Welchon, and Donna Ball. Imitating the likes of Leslie Gore, Janis Joplin, and Connie Francis are Ginny Herman, Sue Gillespie Booten, and Jean Peterson. 4 were part of the original 1992 run. Ball and Peterson joined the cast for a 1994 show. Before long, Sue Gillespie and Tiffany White joined a national tour of Beehive. Over the years, the Omaha cast members would reprise the show on occasion, most recently for the 20th anniversary at the Waiting Room in Benson. In the early years of the Omaha show, all 6 singers were single. All married and became mothers and have remained friends. "We've been so close for so long and have been through so much together in good times and not so good times," Herman said. "I don't think anybody knows me better than these 5 girls." All but one of the girls singing songs of the 60s were born in the 60s, the decade of assassinations and the Vietnam War. The music changed, and so did society. The show opens with all 6 singers on stage wearing beehive wings, reminiscent of the era's teased and sprayed hair. "There's no diva, no queen here. The high-energy performers who live in the vulnerable world of the theatrical spotlight support each other. To start a show with all 6 of us together is the most wonderful, empowering feeling," White Welchon said. "It's about the ensemble. They come and go, off stage and on, sometimes 3 singing at a time, backing each other's solos in tight harmonies. The show's 40 songs, some presented with humor, range from The Name Game and My Boyfriend's Back to You Don't Own Me and Where the Boys Are. The mood switches for the second half to such tunes as Proud Mary, Natural Woman, Me and Bobby McGee, Make Your Own Kind of Music." At a recent rehearsal with Cantiello and music director Kate Schrader, the singers said their long friendships, they have been pregnant together and watched each other's children grow up, only make their performances stronger. "The relationships we have with each other," Booten said, "take the show to a whole different level." Ball said the singers crack each other up. One time she returned to the dressing room for a quick change and forgot to turn off her mic. Cast members were discussing an undergarment and the performer on stage, and maybe some in the audience could hear them through a monitor. Away from their musical reunions, the singers have lived music-filled lives, performing at public and private shows, but they also work day jobs. Tyree operates Kathy Tyree Productions. White Welkin is a director of behavioral health at the Charles Drew Health Center. Ball sells wedding gowns at David's Bridal. Herman is strategic events director for Homestead Senior Care. Booten is choreographer and director of musical theater education at the Rose Theater. Peterson is a music teacher for Papillion La Vista School District. Beehive is scheduled for 9 shows, the next 3 Fridays at 7 p.m. and Sunday, February 19th and February 26th at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Tickets are $35, but $30 for seniors and $25 for students. Call 402-706-0778. Cantiello has staged other recent shows at the Crossroads, and the last 5 years, a musical opens March 24th. Beehive, first produced off-Broadway in 1986, holds a special place in the heart of Cantiello, who brought the show to Omaha a quarter-century ago. He no longer needs to step outside and beg people to come in. "I love the music and how the show tells the story of women of the time," he said. "It takes the audience back to that time." He's glad that Beehive veterans are willing to do the show again. Will they keep doing it every 5 years? In another 25, could they still sing without giggling too hard at Where the Boys Are? Well, maybe not that far into the future, but you never know. "Oh gosh, it has to come to an end at some point," Sue Booten said, "but as long as people want to pay money to hear us sing Beehive, why not?"
That's a good show. I hope people can get to it. Let's hear what Amy Dickinson, what advice she has for us today. Well, dear Amy, I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years. I am 21, he's 23. We get along very well, but he is extremely shy. He barely speaks to my family or friends, or even at his own family functions. Around me, he is fairly chatty. Why isn't he like this with anyone else? He only has a select few friends that he plays video games with. He thinks it's weird to hang out, and he hates small talk because it is pointless. For a long time, this didn't bother me. However, now my mother says she doesn't like him because he is unfriendly. She tells me she would rather I was with someone else, someone more involved. My friends have also expressed concern. They say he's awkward. What can I do to help my boyfriend be more sociable? He has expressed an interest in seeking help. We just don't know where to get it. Should my friends and family be more understanding? And it's signed Disturbed. Or Dear Disturbed, the first thing you should do is understand that your boyfriend is likely an introvert. Expecting him to suddenly become sociable is like expecting an orange to become a blueberry. Could you behave in a way that is completely opposite to your nature? Probably not. You and your guy should both read the best-selling book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, by Susan Cain, 2013 Broadway Books. This groundbreaking look at introversion helps introverts and those who love them see the commonality of their qualities and characteristics. Your guy is likely only comfortable interacting with a small group of people at any one time. He is quiet because he is listening, not because he doesn't want to know people. He is comfortable with and interacts with you because being in your presence doesn't overwhelm him. More insight into his nature will help you to understand him better. For him, self-knowledge might help him to find ways to push through his temperament in order to please you, your friends, and family. He should also grow to understand that there is nothing at all wrong with him. Dear Amy, I am a 52-year-old man. I was married for 22 years and now am divorced. A year ago, I met Carla, the woman of my dreams. Then last summer, I lost my job. I was under a lot of stress. I started texting with an old girlfriend. Some conversations crossed the friend line and became sexual. I consider myself a good guy with strong morals, but I failed. The woman then forwarded these texts to Carla. She was devastated and decided to end our relationship. I have sent cards, flowers, and many texts. Carla said she's moving on and that I should too. But what I did affected me so much that I was baptized at my church because I needed a fresh start. I need to show the love of my life that I'm not playing around anymore. I will do anything to get my girl back. It has been 2 weeks of loneliness, but it feels like a lifetime. I know I shouldn't push too hard, but I don't want to be forgotten. I really want a second chance. I know she still loves me, but I hurt her really bad. Signed, Devastated. Well, dear Devastated, your baptism should mark a spiritual rebirth and renewal, not a guarantee that you will be able to win back your girlfriend. Excuse me. All of this drama is very recent. You have responded by going a little bananas, begging and pleading your girlfriend to come back. You are correct that if you push too hard, the door will slam shut. At this point, you need to behave like a mature adult. Responsibility for your actions, apologize with simple sincerity, and say to Carla, I hope that in time you will find it in your heart to forgive me. And then, yes, you will have to pick up the pieces and do your best to move forward. And the last comment from Amy is, Dear Amy, the question from In a Quandary made me see red. This gentleman felt forced by his elderly mother-in-law to use a handicap parking permit that her late husband left behind after he died. Amy, it is illegal to use one of those permits if it isn't yours. Quandary was morally opposed to using the permit, but he did anyway. He should have refused. Signed, Disgusted. Well, dear Disgusted, I completely agree. And that's the advice from Amy Dickinson today, Deb.
Thanks. I have a tiny article here. Tips on how to read more books in 2017, and I'm sure this would work also for if you're listening to books. It says, so you're still sorting through your resolutions for the new year, one of which is to read more. Easier said than done, right? Wrong. Here are a few tips to help you read or listen to more books in 2017. Don't try to listen when you get into bed for the night. Admit it, you're just going to fall asleep. Instead, set aside an hour earlier in the evening for reading and listening, preferably in a non-reclining position. Step away from your phone. Put it in another room when you read, or at least out of reach. On your days off, schedule time to read and listen, perhaps first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee. Pick an hour and stick to it. If a book doesn't grab you, give up. If a book hasn't grabbed you 50 pages in, move along and feel no guilt. It's the author's responsibility to reel you in, not yours to finish something you don't like. Don't be afraid of genres. Don't feel guilty about enjoying thrillers or crime novels or sci-fi or romance or horror or westerns or erotica or, well, anything. And keep a list of what you have listened to. It's weirdly effective incentive.
Well, it's 11:38, and I think it's time we could move on to the business section and economy. Well, a dozen business people from across the state of Nebraska joined Governor Pete Ricketts in a coalition of area business leaders to tout his proposed income tax cuts Monday. I like this plan a lot, and I like where this governor is trying to take us, said Jack Schreiner, owner of Bruckman's Rubber in Hastings, during a news conference in Ricketts' state capitol office. The proposal, which is before the state legislature, would gradually reduce the state's top individual income tax rate from 6.84% to 5.99% over the next 10 years or longer, depending on state revenue growth. Schreiner said he wasn't a rubber stamp Republican, but believes the tax plan was thoughtfully done. It's not a huge decrease, he said. I would have liked to have seen much bigger, but it wasn't going to happen this year. This is practical. Ricketts said the plan will boost small businesses and make Nebraska more competitive with surrounding states. He described small businesses as employing anywhere from a couple to 250 or 500 people. If we want families to move here, if we want companies to expand here, if we want small businesses to grow, we have to be more competitive when it comes to taxes, he said. Ricketts said his plan is supported by the Nebraska, Omaha, and Lincoln Chambers of Commerce, as well as the Nebraska Federation of Independent Businesses, the Lincoln Independent Business Association, and the Platt Institute think tank. Which, to be fair, Ricketts, he's the one who supports the Platt Institute. Anyway, Open Sky Policy Institute, a Lincoln-based think tank that has opposed income tax cuts, argued many small businesses are unlikely to be affected by the governor's proposed cuts because they don't make enough money to qualify. The group also questioned whether the cuts would have any positive economic impact. Income tax cuts have not grown Kansas' economy, and there's no reason to believe that would be any different here in Nebraska, said Renee Fry, Open Sky's executive director, in a news release. The governor's bill, LB 337, is sponsored in the legislature by Senator Jim Smith of Papillion, chairman of the Revenue Committee. Half of the committee's members, Senators Kurt Freisen of Henderson, Lydia Brosh of Bancroft, and Brett Lindstrom of Omaha, stood behind Ricketts during the news conference. We need overall tax relief in this state, Smith said. Brosh has sponsored another measure, LB 338, on the governor's behalf to change the method of valuing agricultural land for tax purposes from the market value to an income potential model. Both bills are scheduled for a public hearing February 8th at 1:30 p.m. in the state capitol. So if you're up there in the higher brackets, you might be getting a little bit of a break here in Nebraska.
No problem for me. From Washington, President Donald Trump signed an order Monday aimed at cutting regulations on businesses, saying that agencies should eliminate 2 regulations for every new one. The White House later released the text of the order, which added that the cost of any new regulation should be offset by eliminating regulations with the same costs to businesses. It excluded regulations regarding the military. The impact of the order was difficult to judge based on the president's remarks. It could be difficult to implement under current law and would concentrate greater power in the Office of Management and Budget, which already reviews federal regulations. Trump signed the document, which he called a big one, at his desk in the Oval Office, surrounded by 9 small business owners who earlier that morning met in the White House's Roosevelt Room. This will be the largest ever cut by far in terms of regulations, Trump said. If you have a regulation you want, number 1, we're not going to approve it because it's already been approved, probably in 17 different forms. But if we do, the only way you have a chance is we have to knock out 2 regulations for every new regulation. So if there's a new regulation, they have to knock out 2, but it goes way beyond that. But experts on government policy said Trump's formulation made little sense. There's no logic to this, William Gale, a tax and fiscal policy expert at the Brookings Institution, said before seeing the executive order. The number of regulations is not the key. It's how onerous regulations are. This seemed like a totally nonsensical constraint to me. Trump said the move would help both large and small businesses. Regulation has been horrible for big business, but it's been worse for small business, he said, noting that small businesses cannot hire the talent and compliance personnel that larger businesses do. There will be regulation, there will be control, but it will be normalized control where you can open your business and expand your business very easily, and that's what our country has been all about.
Well, baseball is coming up here soon, and if you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan, you're a little bit dismayed because the St. Louis Cardinals were stripped of their top 2 picks in this year's amateur draft Monday. I think the draft isn't Monday. I think that means that's when they were told they're not going to get them on Monday, in order to give them to Houston along with $2 million as compensation for hacking the Astros email system and scouting database. the final and unprecedented step in an unusual case of cyber crime involving two Major League Baseball teams. Baseball Commissioner Bob Manfred also banned former St. Louis executive Christopher Correa for life, as he ruled the Cardinals must give the 56th and 75th draft choices in June to Houston. They must pay the Astros the money within 30 days. Correa, the Cardinals' director of baseball development until July 2015, pleaded guilty in federal court last year to 5 counts of unauthorized access of a protected computer. He was sentenced to 46 months in prison and ordered to pay the Astros $279,039 in restitution. Although Mr. Correa's conduct was not authorized by the Cardinals, as a matter of Major League Baseball policy, I am holding the Cardinals responsible for his conduct, Manfred wrote. A club suffers material harm when an employee of another club illegally accesses its confidential and proprietary information, particularly intrusions of the nature and scope present here. In addition, as a result of Mr. Correa's conduct, the Astros suffered substantial negative publicity and had to endure the time, expense, and distraction of both a lengthy government investigation and a Major League Baseball. Houston said this unprecedented award by the commissioner's office sends a clear message of the severity of these actions. Correa was employed by the Cardinals from 2009 to 15. Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow told reporters in June 2014 the team had been the victim of hackers who accessed servers and published online months of internal trade talks. Astros General Counsel Giles Kibbe said Correa accessed the Astros system about 60 times over 2 years. St. Louis already had lost its original top pick, number 19, as compensation for signing free agent outfielder Dexter Fowler. The Cardinals' first pick now will be numbers 94 overall. Houston will have 5 selections in the top 94. The Astros already had slots 15, 53, and 91.
Thanks. Here's a story about something that I, of course, didn't know anything about. Longest streak ends after 52 years, 39 days. The longest recorded running streak in history ended Saturday when England's Ron Hill completed a 1-mile run. The 78-year-old former Olympian did not run Sunday for the first time in 52 years and 39 days, a streak that dates to December 21st, 1964, 5 days before the Beatles topped the Billboard charts with the single I Feel Fine. In a statement released by Streak Runners International, Hill, who suffers from an undiagnosed heart problem, said that after less than 400 meters Saturday, my heart started to hurt, and over the last 800 meters, the problem got worse and worse. I thought I might die, but just made it to the 1 mile in 16 minutes and 34 seconds. There was no other option but to stop. I owed that to my wife, family, and friends, plus myself. Streak runners must run at least a mile every day, regardless of injuries, surgery, or other circumstances. The records are submitted by runners on the honor system, but Mark Washburn, who keeps both the U.S. and world lists, tries to check out claims of lengthy streaks. The end of Hill's streak gives John Sutherland, 66, of West Hills, California, the longest active streak in the world at 17,417 days, or a little more than 47 and a half years, according to the U.S. Running Streak Association. 3 other Americans are not far behind, and all are probably young enough to pass Hill's record if they continue.
Well, as you know, it's Super Bowl Sunday coming up, and the enemy's list is long in New England, and it grows with each tweet that dares to doubt Tom Brady's supremacy or call Coach Belichick a cheater. But there's one opponent who has escaped the fury of the Foxborough fans and even has a considerable amount of goodwill in the heart of New England. In fact, it's hard to find any kind of animosity toward Atlanta Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan, who built his reputation personally and professionally at Boston College. It's hard to think of anything bad to say about Matt, said former BC Sports Information Director Chris Cameron, who was in the athletic department when Ryan led the Eagles to a number 2 ranking in the Associated Press poll in the middle of the 2007 season. I think there are many people at Boston College who are die-hard Patriots fans who are somewhat torn, but I can't think of anyone who will wish any ill will on Matt Ryan. Peyton Manning is a persona non grata in New England because he had the nerve to win a couple of Super Bowls. His original team, the Indianapolis Colts, earned the Patriots' ire for questioning whether the team's footballs were properly inflated in a 2015 playoff game. The Baltimore Ravens and New York Jets were also sucked into the 2-year Deflategate scandal, drawing the wrath of the local fans. And don't get the Foxborough brothers started on Commissioner Roger Goodell or on ESPN. But Ryan is the rare New England opponent who doesn't inspire hatred in the area, even as he prepares to face the Patriots in the Super Bowl on Sunday. At Boston College, a guard shack displays a poster of Matty Ice, the nickname Ryan picked up from his Eagles teammates for his ability to remain cool under pressure. In the athletic building, a case is filled with life-sized action shots of Ryan and some of the trophies he won. Johnny Unitas Award, the Manning Award, Atlantic Coast Conference Player of the Year. Around campus, in the run-up to the Super Bowl, they're telling stories about the humble but talented quarterback who was also a conscientious student and friend. He remembers people's names. He's polite to them. There's really no ego there that I've detected, but that's confidence, Cameron said. He's just a really nice, caring guy. He's just got what that it factor. A Philadelphia native who was under-recruited coming out of high school as an option quarterback who also played baseball and basketball, Ryan led Boston College to that number 2 ranking and finished in the top 10 in the Heisman Trophy voting. BC finished 11 wins, 3 losses, and number 10 in the nation, beating Michigan State in the Champs Sports Bowl. But when the Falcons took Ryan 3rd overall in the 2008 NFL Draft, Cameron found himself spending hours online responding to comments on an Atlanta newspaper website from fans who were disappointed with the pick. I'm not too sure that Atlanta knew too much about Matt, Cameron said. I must have responded to 100 of them. I just took it so personally. I must have typed, just wait, just wait, just wait, 100 times. Asked about the mixed loyalties in his former stomping grounds, Ryan said in Atlanta last week, none of my friends have mixed loyalties, emphasizing the word my and drawing a laugh from the assembled reporters. Count Cameron among them. I am a Patriots fan and I am rooting for the Falcons solely because of Matt, he said. On a very personal level, to see someone that good of a person succeed at that level would be incredible. Yep.
Thanks, Don. From Denver, the U.S. government has told the U.S. Olympic Committee that the travel ban put in place over the weekend shouldn't impact athletes traveling to the United States for international events. In a statement Monday, the USOC leaders said that the government told them it would work to ensure athletes from all countries would have expedited access to the United States for international competition. A World Cup archery event is scheduled for Las Vegas on February 10th. Iran, one of the 7 countries listed on the ban, brought one archer, Zahra Nemati, to last year's Olympics. The status of Iran's archery team for the World Cup is not known. The U.S. wrestling team travels to Iran next month for a World Cup event, and the head of the federation said plans are still in place for that trip. Other events in the United States later this year include the Boston Marathon and the Prefontaine Classic in track and field, World Cup cycling events, and another World Cup archery contest. When those events take place, the impact of the ban and its legality could be different than it is currently. We're in contact with Tracks International Federation and the USOC, and we're all committed to doing whatever we can for athletes to travel however they need to for events, said Jill Greer of USA Track and Field. All this comes with the International Olympic Committee set to award the 2024 Olympics in September. Los Angeles is a finalist, along with Paris and Budapest, Hungary. In announcing their latest contact with the government, USOC Chairman Larry Probst and CEO Scott Blackmun issued a joint statement Monday, recognizing that the Olympic movement was founded based upon principles of diversity and inclusion. We also acknowledge the difficult task of providing for the safety and security of a nation, the statement said. It is our sincere hope that the executive order, as implemented, will appropriately recognize the values on which our nation, as well as the Olympic movement, were founded. The LA 2024 committee is expected to formally submit its candidacy paperwork this week to host the Summer Olympics. The 95-member International Olympic Committee will select a winner in September. While President Trump has been a vocal supporter of the Los Angeles bid, some fear his words and actions could undermine the LA 2024 committee's efforts. Trump's recent executive order temporarily banning entry into the United States for refugees and migrants from seven Muslim-majority countries has sparked concern from some Olympic athletes and officials. While most members of the IOC have remained silent on Trump's edict, one of them, Richard Peterkin from Santa Lucia, tweeted on Saturday, Trump's executive order on immigration is totally contrary to Olympic ideals. For him, collective responsibility trumps individual justice. The LA 2024 committee has yet to comment on Trump's recent actions, but Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti denounced the president's order. Also on Monday, Detroit Pistons coach Stan Van Gundy called Trump's travel ban scary and mentioned Japanese internment and Hitler's treatment of Jews while criticizing the policy. On Monday in Boston, Van Gundy told reporters, it's starting to get really, really scary stuff now. We're getting into the days of now we're judging people by their religion, trying to keep Muslims out. He added, we're getting back to the days of, putting the Japanese in relocation camps and Hitler registering the Jews. Major League Soccer Players Union released a statement and disappointment with Trump's executive order. Union chief Bob Foose said the organization is concerned not only with its athletes and their families, but all people impacted by the order implemented Friday. The statement said the union is still assessing the practical impact of the ban on players. We are extremely disappointed by the ban and feel strongly that it runs counter to the values of inclusiveness that define us as a nation, Foose said. The union also expressed solidarity with U.S. national team captain Michael Bradley, who came out against the ban in an interview on social media. Race car driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. said, America is created by immigrants. Earnhardt's comments came in response to a tweet directed at him by a man who identified himself as a Muslim. My family immigrated from Germany in the 1700s, escaping religious persecution. America is created by immigrants, Earnhardt tweeted. It is not the salvo to end salvos, but Earnhardt's voice definitely matters. He has been voted NASCAR's most popular driver 14 years in a row, despite missing half of last season with concussion-related symptoms. He also has 1.9 million Twitter followers.
Well, move over Michael Jordan. There's a new MJ flu game. Okay, maybe that's a little extreme, but Michael Jacobson's effort Sunday in Nebraska's 83-80 win against Purdue didn't go unnoticed. The 6'9" sophomore had an already difficult task Sunday, getting the assignment of guarding Purdue star Caleb Swanigan. Then Jacobson, who wasn't feeling well during Nebraska's loss at Northwestern earlier in the week, got sick again. We put Jordy, that's Tishimingaga, in. He got a couple of fouls. We were going to put Michael back in, and Michael was gone, Nebraska coach Tim Miles explained after the game. I asked, where's Michael? He's vomiting. He gets back later. Jordy's back in. I'm ready to take Jordy back out. Michael's vomiting again. Jacobson spent much of the first half running back and forth between the bench and the locker room as he battled a flu bug that first popped up earlier in the week. Miles said Jacobson spent halftime laying on his back with an IV in his arm. I just went in there and said, hey, don't kill yourself over a basketball game, for crying out loud, Miles said. And he goes, no, I'll be ready. I didn't know if he was talking about a date later or tonight or the basketball game. But Jacobson came back and arguably made the play of the game. He forced Swanigan into a turnover. On Purdue's next possession, Jacobson stood his ground and got help from McVeigh as Swanigan slowly backed into the paint and was called for a 3-second violation. Nebraska, of course, wrapped up the victory from there. The victory was no doubt sweet for Jacobson, who a day earlier expressed his excitement about going up against one of the nation's top front courts. I was at that game, and it was a heck of a game. I'm telling you, that was really a lot of fun. Well, and we had a lot of fun today, and our time is up, though. And so for Don Van.
And Deb 80.
So long, everyone. Enjoy the week.
Thank you both very much.
It really was fun. I mean, it really was. Nebraska lost 5 games in a row, and then they beat a ranked team. It was good.
Please have a great week from all of us here.
Really good. Well, so you're here next week.
Oh, yeah. I won't be gone until the 14th.
Oh, okay.
What?
That's a new calendar.
No, it's not. Did you say old?
Well, it's today's.
Oh, today, well,
last
right.
week. I meant it didn't have February.
I see. Well, you could turn the page.
Well, I might do something.
Oh. I was going to pick up my purse on that chair, but it's not on the chair. Those are your books.
Yep. Once upon a time.
That's a nice title.
Hmm?
Is that the North Platte one?
Yeah. It's an easy read. So, those are a year off. We have to make it 25. One of the columns would be right, but not, we would have the right age, but not the right instructions. Yeah.
We're going to take this first column, this first one. Let's say that somebody died on January 1st. So he was born in 1905, and now it's 2017. So if he died on January 1st, he would have been 112. But this says 101. Every number on this page is wrong. Because the year has changed.
He's a 30-year-old.
Why do I have that?
Just move every number up one. Oh, God.
Yeah, that's all.
He usually sends this to me and I don't have to worry about it. Yes.
Text is always good. Because we've been announcing wrong. I mean, a lot of them have been wrong today.
Oh.
But nobody cares.
No, they don't.
No.
Well,
I mean, well, he was 90 or 91. Who knows that about the person they're hearing about? He's not 27. It's the right age.
Yeah, it's not. See you next time. Have a good week, Deb.
Thanks, you too.
Don't even look at the news.
Yeah, that's really probably pretty good advice. Except I want to call my senators. I've sent them an email, both of them, about Betsy DeVos. But now that looks like small potatoes compared
Yeah.
to some other things. Let's have world chaos.
See, I think that's he's not smart enough.
What's the name of it?
What?
The sheet,
I don't know, just the age.
it's called,
How old was that person? I mean, it's just, listen, realize, and I think the Republicans have been doing this for a long time. When they get positive responses from their base and they think that that's all,
yeah.
they never can govern anyway. If you look at how bad they are governing.
But this man has no sense of how we fit in the world.
Well,
And he's so set on winning and being the best
as long as he
person.
has people, yeah, you're right. That's okay
He
with it.
doesn't need people, he just needs that one guy.
He's got Breitbart.
That's what I mean. That's terrible.
He's got that band guy.
You're right. It would be better if I didn't think about it all the time.
I mean, they think, I know Bacon had made a comment about Obama. You don't know. I went to these town hall meetings and there were people furious about it. So I got to do something. So I'm thinking, well, what about all the people that are the other way?
Yeah,
You can't just say, yeah, I know these people are mad, but what about these people? They're mad too,
yeah,
that you're going to take it away. So,
Yeah.
but they don't care. It's just,
right. Somebody
if
spoke to
someone
me.
supports me
Yeah.
in yelling, I'll tell that's all I need.
Yes, I represent that person. Never mind those other ones over there.
Right. I mean, what about their concerns?
Usually, though, there's some balance. This particular president is beyond the pale. We have
Right.
never had anybody like this
Yeah.
before. Totally
Andrew
ignorant.
Johnson. Andrew
Jackson, yeah,
But
yes.
that's hard to compare, but
Well, the world was
he wanted to get
different.
away from the bank and stuff. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, the world was way different.
now everything that happens here resonates around the world. And it's not